All right, so we took losses today, and I'm going to go over those and how everything took place and why. But first, I wanted to start off with a statement saying I apologize for the losses that have happened on my followers' accounts. Um, I tried to control them. They were roughly about 36% for the majority of you, um, which is substantial. It's nothing small. And every strategy has weaknesses. And it's impossible to have a strategy with no weaknesses. It just doesn't exist. I've been trading for 13 years, and I do have a lot of experience in the markets. But it doesn't necessarily mean that because of I have 14 years experience, means that I'm going to be a profitable trader. I've developed a strategy that has been profitable over the last 10 years, but it ran into some issues today, and it ran into some issues in the past 2 weeks. A lot of you have picked on me or criticized me, a good portion of you that haven't really used my system or disagree with the way I trade. And all I'm telling you is that just because I'm a counter trend trader and have different money management does not mean that my strategy is any worse than yours. Because the majority of you that actually write in on my videos are losers yourself, and you're just in denial or you're embarrassed and you just don't want to admit it. Because we know that at least 95% of retail traders out there lose, and so it's a very hypocritical world. And being a counter trend trader, it's hard because a lot of people are against you automatically, and so you're kind of fighting an uphill battle, and that's never an easy thing to do. So taking losses, took the 30%, 36% loss. My buddy took a 14% loss, which was just about $18,000. Yikes. And then my personal FX Choice account was trading at twice the risk of this account that you see here. So I took unfortunately, a 72% loss on that account. Um, so moving forward, what mistakes were made with my system, with the markets, and then how do I plan to make changes and, and modifications to help improve what just happened. So if it happens again, potentially we can better weather the storm. As you guys have heard me say before, that past results don't guarantee future results, and that's such a big thing to remember, because my strategy has shown pro, uh, profit almost straight in the last 10 years. But this was a very different situation than my strategy's ever really seen before. We had first the tariffs, we had the fear of NAFTA, and the Canadian economy, which was it is a total mess right now. And all of this came into fruition in the last uh, 3 weeks. All this stuff came down, raining down on Canada in a matter of 3 weeks. And then on top of that, we happen to have finally the Brexit agreements or an agreement on Brexit finally looking like it's coming into place after this many years or this amount of time. So a very unusual market uh, condition when it comes to fundamental news announcements and just the overall uh, condition on the Canadian dollar and pound. So that's caused this kind of price action that's never really happened with my system before. And I've tried to my best to prepare for these kinds of events. I was able to make it through Brexit. Majority of the reason for that is because my strategy wasn't trading during Brexit. because of how massive the candles were, and my filter was able to knock that out. But here, it was over the span of 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and just a relentless uh, Canadian dollar fall over and over again. Today's move right here that you see was mainly the pound's fault with the uh, potential for or rumors of a Brexit agreement made, and so this pushed up another leg there. So there is a weakness with my strategy. A lot of people would say the weakness is that it's counter trend. That's a weakness because you're trading against the trend. A lot of people will say, oh, it's because you're a money management, where you're taking a 0.25% profit on some of your trades and you're risking upwards of 30%. That's not good money management. Sorry, plus. Um, and I've always said that it's important to try to protect your account from losses within means. And I've seen that most in the history of this strategy, that protecting my losses means uh, holding on to some trades for a longer period of time until they roll into profit. And that's worked very well in the past. But when we get into a circumstance like this, or a situation like this, where we have a 500 pip stop loss on each trade, and if the market runs up against us in a big way, then what happens at that 500 pip mark? That means that if this continues to ride up, all of our stops at 500 pips, because our trades are 20 pips away from each other, that means that every 20 pips that we get knocked out with a new stop loss, which is about a 2% hit to our account every single time. And this is a never-ending process because once trades get knocked out at the bottom, at a 500 pip stop, new trades are entered on the top. And so it's a never-ending cycle if this continues to ride up against us. And so basically what I'm saying is that the algorithm could deplete the account if the trend continues to move up against us. That's not something I like because it makes it so I have to have manual intervention with the strategy, so it doesn't, get out of control. So the idea is to make a change so there is a better plan once we have a condition like this again, or when we have a condition like this again, where price goes up against us or against us in a big way. There needs to be a better plan uh, to closing out trades. And closing out trades in this way has worked well in the past, but is it something that's still viable in the market? I've said that when we have losses, it's important to try to change with the market in order to keep your strategy profitable. But I have also mentioned that the market is always one step ahead of you because you can't it's hard to make changes onto something until you experience that problem to begin with. Um, and even if this closed out in profit and went back down from here, which is possible that I can move from here, and this could be the reversal point. Because in 10 years of testing my strategy on the pound Canadian dollar, in 10 years of testing, there was one point, I think it was during Brexit or just before it or after it, that there was a 600 pip move from the original order to the top. And guess what? We're at 600 pips from the bottom order to the top where it is now. So it's very possible that if we are copying anything like we did in the past, that this could be the start of the reversal all the way back down into profit. That is completely possible. But if that's something that's possible, why did I close out trades where I did? Because a Brexit agreement being on the table is way too big of a deal. Where once we find out if those rumors were actually true and there is an agreement, this is going to shoot up hundreds of pips in a matter of seconds. And that would wipe out my trading system in a matter of seconds. I just don't want to take that risk on my money and on other people's money. It's just not proper to do that. And so it's just not worth it. So that's why I closed out the trades when I did up here, even if this was a reversal point. I tried to hold on to as long as I could because I did think that this was a good place for a reversal, but I did end up closing out trades thinking of the potential risk of holding them would be. So even if this had a pullback and it went back down, and we could have an agreement on Brexit at any moment, and likely on Wednesday this week, I would think if there's anything that actually is going to, if there's actually any agreement, this would shoot up real fast, even on a pullback. And because what I'm saying is the pullback may not be enough for us to get out before that announcement is made, which could cause us to hit profit in a matter of seconds, or to hit huge loss, substantial loss of 50 or more percent on the account in a matter of seconds. So I needed to take manual intervention here to protect from, obscene massive losses. 36% is already huge, and I don't want to extend that. So moving forward with making changes is not going to be easy, and I want to ask you guys for 24 to 48 hours, and I may even do a live stream where you can ask questions, or those that don't like me can harass me and say, I told you so, your money management is wrong, and this and that. Um, and I'll listen, especially if what you have to say is constructive. Um, I don't want to hear somebody say, "Oh, you're the worst trader in the world." That's that's not constructive to me. I want to hear something like, "Why am I the worst trader in the world?" And give me something more. And somebody will say, "Oh, it's because you're a counter trend trader, and it's because you don't have good money management." I want to hear something different. Instead of the same old things that advice that comes from losing traders. I don't want to hear the same old jargon from those traders that are losers, because we know that a good portion of us retail traders are losers, um, and we all feel like we have strategies that are profitable. And I've always thought that trying to do something different than the rest of those people is the way to go. But I still have weaknesses in my strategy that need tweaking. And so that's what this next 24 to 48 hours is for, is to try to find the best way of making those tweaks so my strategy is better protected in the future. So be patient with me. I'm sorry for those losses, and I'll give you guys more updates soon on what I plan to do. And also use this time to reflect on me and my strategy and your money and where you want it to go. Is this the right decision for you to move forward? And the next 24 to 48 hours, there won't be any trades taken on your account. This will be a time to reflect, to look for modifications, and if you're patient and and you're willing to wait for my decision on or the changes that will be made, then you're welcome to do so. But if you don't want to wait, that's fine. You can go off on your way and move forward. For those of you that also think that I feel like or think that I've made a good amount of money off of this venture, having those copy me, is not the case. I have made probably about $150 off of doing this. And actually, no, I haven't even made anything because I spent $150 on a website and and materials for doing this, and copy software. So I spent about $200 or more on that stuff. So I'm actually in a loss at this point when it comes to the business model here. So for those of you thinking that I'm trying to get a bunch of money from people and getting them in and duping them into a strategy so I can basically rob them is not what this was about. Um, I was very confident with my strategy, which is probably a fault of mine. Um, and it takes times of humbling in order to make the correct changes. Um, but it doesn't. What I'm going to be doing in the future doesn't mean that we're going to be completely protected from losses. If anything, it means that we may even take more losses, but they may be more controlled in the future, and that's what I'm hoping for, are more controlled losses. So there is a better way of recovery and and more expectation on what kind of loss to expect or drawdown to expect. It's been very open-ended. Oh, we might receive 25%. I'll start cutting trades at 25%, and I might cut trades at 30%. There's this might that's involved that makes it a little bit uh, hard to handle for you, me, when there's not a definite plan at once market happens to go against us in this fashion. So I'm hoping that the changes that I make in the next 24 hours or the plan that I come up with will help give us a better plan moving forward. And I urge you to reflect on that and to wait and to see what I come up with to see if it's good enough, if it makes sense enough for you to stay. Um, and for those that are staying, I'm not going to be making any money off of you. Yeah, a 1% commission on your trades, which has turned out to be about $20 from Trader's Way at this point. Um, and so it's just if you think that this is worth it. And I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I'm going to say that this is my plan, this is how I plan on moving forward, and you guys can choose to do so as well. And I think I'll do a live stream. I'm not scared of people anymore and when it comes to criticism. Um, and if they say harsh things, that's okay. And I can choose to reply to them or not. Um, but you know, there's always two sides to everything. Um, and I'm willing to accept the questions in regards to that. All right, so give me some time, reflect, and I'll be back in the next 24 to 48 hours on hopefully some positive changes that'll be made to the system moving forward, and why those changes are substantial or make sense, and what kind of profit we can maybe expect, what kind of loss, or what huge changes were made to the strategy. All that kind of stuff will be disclosed in that next video. All right, thank you for being patient with me, and I'm sorry for the losses that were made on your accounts. And hopefully we can move forward and make those losses back with modifications uh, that I'll be looking at here today and in the next couple days. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.